Don't know me, my name is Hello, everybody. If you don't know me, my name is Kimberly Douglas, and I lead SHPE's Research and Innovation Office, and I want to welcome you this evening on behalf of our CEO, Chris Wilkie. Chris got stuck in Baltimore due to the weather in Dallas, and he did get on a plane, so I think he's going to make it home this evening. Today is his wife's birthday. So, but there's enough ice in Dallas that he didn't think that he'd actually make it home in time to host this evening. So I want to welcome you on behalf of him and thank our board members that we have with us, Melanie and Natalie and Adrienne. Want to thank you for being with us this evening and all of the rest of you as well. We're very excited to be able to share the results of our needs assessment. For those of you that don't know, we did the needs assessment for the first time in this prior year, and it's something that we're going to be doing annually from here forward. Probably making it a little shorter and making a few changes, but we've had the opportunity to share this with a few of you before and are really excited to be able to share it with a broader community this evening. So what I'd like to do is introduce Dr. Dayna Martínez, who has spearheaded the analysis of our needs assessment results. Very excited for her to share with you what we found. And with that, Dayna, I'll let you take it over.
Thank you so much, Kimberly. So I'm gonna share my screen. Let me know, everyone, if you can see that okay. Yes?
Yes, we have it.
Thank you so much, and good evening, everyone. For those of you that don't know me, please allow me a few minutes to introduce myself. As Kimberly said, my name is Dr. Dayna Martínez, and I've been with SHPE since June of 2021. Before that, I was a professor at Northeastern University. I'm an industrial engineer by training, and we focus on data analysis, statistics, quality control, healthcare systems engineering. I did a little bit of everything before joining SHPE. I've been a SHPE member since I was an undergraduate student, so I'm very familiar with the organization. And I am very happy to be now part of the Research and Innovation Office as one of the directors. And part of my responsibilities include overseeing all of our pre-college programming, as well as our parent programming. Because I come from academia, I have a great passion for graduate students and for faculty development. So I always like to say that I do some of that on the side. And then, of course, the research and the analysis part that today I get to share with you the results of one of our biggest data projects yet, which is the needs assessment. So just to give you a little bit of context here, the goal of the needs assessment was to better understand the needs and challenges that you, our members, face, and then finds ways that we can help you succeed. And we are already using and have been using these results to design programs, right, and services and events to better support your personal and professional goals and success. So let's talk a little bit about the survey design. So the survey had a total of 54 questions, and it took an average of 17 minutes to complete. I don't know how many of you completed the needs assessment. Maybe let us know in the chat if you did. And responses were collected since mid-December of 2021. That's when we started sending out invitations, and we collected results until April of 2022. It was sent by email to approximately 36,000, well, not approximately, to exactly 36,186 individuals that currently are or have been SHPE members in the past. And just so you get an idea, a good opening rate ranges from 17 to 28%. And it's important to note, as we see here in this slide, that we got a 59.3% opening rate, which is excellent. From those that did open the email and the invitation, 12.2% of them completed the survey, which gave us a total of 4,416 responses. And I know that it may seem like, oh, only 12.2% of that 60% answered, but I want you to focus on the number here. It's 4,416. This is an excellent sample size. This is a dream sample size for researchers and statisticians and people that do surveys. So all that to say, right, that we got a really good amount of data to be able to draw meaningful conclusions out of this survey. The other thing that I want to point out is that of those 4,416 individuals, 81.6% of them completed the whole survey. And just so you get an idea on how this compares to the average, a survey completion rate of 50% or more is considered excellent. And typical values range from 5 to 30%. So again, we got really good data to work with. Let's talk a little bit about the methodology that we use for analyzing the survey. And here I show you the three major methods that we use. So we use your descriptive statistics and statistical inference. Descriptive statistics to be able to summarize the data, right? And to do your graphs and make sense, right, of what we had there. We use Cronbach alphas to measure the internal consistency of constructs. And for now, forget about that. We'll go back to that later on. If you are not familiar with it, I'll explain it in a little bit later. And then your statistical tests like hypothesis testing, ANOVA, Tukey test, all of that great stuff in order for us to be able to compare and make conclusions between groups. So for examples, right, when we say there's a difference between undergraduates and graduate students, we actually use statistical tests to be able to say that difference is statistically significant. And now the statistics and probability professor out of me is coming out. But right, you can, when you are doing samples and basing conclusions out of samples, you cannot just see a difference and say it's different, right? You have to check that that difference is actually statistically significant, and we did. So moving forward, let's talk a little bit more about the sample sizes. As I mentioned, we had a total of 4,416 respondents. Here you can see the gender breakdown. Something that I want to make sure that we understand with this slide is that the questions were optional. So people could skip questions, right? So then that means that not everyone answered every single question. So the sample size per question varies, right? So then when we calculate percentages and things like that, when we're showing you those percentages, it's based on the amount of people that answered that specific question and not on the total 4,416. So to give you an example, right, out of those 4,416, only 4,248 answered the member type question. And the member type question was to divide you in those 4 subgroups: undergraduate, professionals, graduates, and professionals in grad school. And here you can see the amount of data that we got, undergraduate being the largest subgroup and professionals in grad school being the smallest subgroups with just 121. Sorry, still, sorry. 121, still a good sample to make conclusions of the group as a whole. When we went to professionals in grad school, if we wanted to make other divisions, like make this even more smaller, like for example, dividing professionals in grad schools between first generation and non-first generation, then the sample size got too small. And sorry. And because of that, you will see that for some questions, we do not present professionals in grad school, for example, and it's because the sample size got too small. So respondents' involvement with SHPE. So about 90% of them are members, and then about 10% of them are non-members. We went out to ask these 10% the reasoning for not renewing their membership. And you can see here the breakdown. This was a select all that apply question. That's why the percentages doesn't add up to 100 and add up to more. And the major reasons, right, were too expensive, forgot to renew, and personal reasons. The way I arranged this graph is by showing the first 3 things are things that SHPE can do something about, right? Too expensive, forgot to renew, not satisfied. Those are things that we can potentially do better. And then change in interest or priorities and personal reasons, then those are things that we can't really control. We also ask all of you to self-identify with what field you identify the most. And as we can see here, about 80% identified as engineering. So engineering keeps being the majority, right, of what's represented in our membership. But as you can see here, we have representation in the other fields as well. And we have more representation that what we usually give ourselves credit for. So you can see, for example, technology is about 36.9%, then followed by science, then followed by math. Now, what we're talking about here, the first part, the red part, is talking about what generation Hispanic our members are. And 65% of our members are not immigrants themselves. So this is very important, right? When we think about what are the types of stories that our members will respond better to, and in what way, right? What type of programming and what type of services our members need. This is very important information. But I would also like for you to consider the flip side of this, and is that 81% of our members are either first or second generation. First mean that they were born outside of the United States, and then second generation, right, is that they are born in the US from parents that are not born in the United States. So first generation is 34% and second generation is 47%. So this means, right, that 81% of those parents are not are immigrants themselves, right? And then again, that's important information when we consider things like our Equipando Padres program, right? And what type of parents are we serving, and what are their needs? What are their needs in terms of, they might not have gone to college themselves, which we can see in the second one. 52.8% of respondents are first generation to college, which means that their parents do not have a 4-year college degree and that college experience to help them, right, through their college journey, and graduate journey and professional journey, right? So again, just very important details that are important for us to consider when we think about the messaging, the language that we use to speak to our members and to the members' parents, etc. And this is especially important because research shows how important parent involvement is in the student's success. So needs assessment, of course, we ask you about what are your needs. And this is just a very short list. If you took the survey, that was a very long, comprehensive list of needs. And then you had the option to actually write in if you didn't see something in there. And again, this is divided by each one of the subgroups for undergraduate, graduate, professionals, and professionals in graduate school. Many of these are already being addressed in some way or another by current programming that has been developed right in response for these data. So for example, for undergraduates, we have our internship program with Medtronic, going to be scaled with Commons. And if you go to scholarship opportunities, right, this scholarship cycle, we reduced the GPA to 2.5. We also took out the recommendation letter requirement, and we opened the scholarship cycle with convention, which is way earlier than we usually do. Again, just trying to broaden these scholarship opportunities to all of you. With graduate students, since I started, we have a couple of programs that we have developed for graduate students. We have SHPE Reads, we have graduate mentoring groups, we have future grads, which are all for academic skill development and also touching a little bit into those academic career paths. We also have passport to math careers. And then for professionals, you see here career planning, academic skill development and certifications. There's the Google Cloud certification that we did with Accenture, the Cybertrek as certification as well. But again, many in this list that are for sure opportunities for us to better serve all of you. And also, again, if you look at the more comprehensive list of the top 10, top 20, there's even more there. We also ask you about your preferred membership perks, and this one always makes me giggle a little bit because we ask you your top 5 preferred membership perks. And a couple of things to notice here is how many of them repeat across all 4 groups, such as airline discounts and promotions, that is in every one of those columns, as well as hotel discounts. As with needs, there are some here that have already been addressed and or in the process of being addressed, like certifications, like I was mentioning before. With the joint disciplinary memberships that we see in a couple of the columns as well for professionals and professionals in grad school. I know that right now we have SHPE and in conjunction with SWE. I know that also if you are a SHPE member, you get 50% discount on ASME. And I know our CEO and engagement team are working to develop other relationships in order to offer these to all of you. Again, many opportunities here as well to think about what we can develop to offer all of you. For example, another one that stood out to me because it appears a bunch of times in a bunch of different columns is financial advisors. And one of the things that the R&I group is exploring right now is in a financial literacy course. In this graph, we call it member experience. And in this specific question, we ask you, because of SHPE, I'm very informed about, and there were several, and depending on which group you fell, undergraduates, graduates, professional in grad school, these varied slightly. But I took the 4 that were common among all 4 groups, just to show you a couple of things, right? So as you can see in this graph, undergraduates tend to rate their member experience related to information higher than all other groups. And it seems that as members move from student to professional or graduate student, the information benefits from being at SHPE go down. And it's even lower, right, when we see for graduate students and for professionals in graduate school. For me personally, this was not unexpected, since historically, right, our programs and events had been catered to our undergraduate population. But I wanted to bring this up also to show you the benefit of doing this type of analysis in a yearly basis, right? As we continue to develop programs as we're doing now, more catered to graduate students and professionals, we would expect for this to even out, right? And hopefully every group rates more or less the same, their member experience. And also we hope this goes up, right? I want to point out, right, that the maximum here is a 5. The other thing that I wanted to show you when I was thinking about summarizing the results is the physical health and mental health. So, and this is important, right? Because for our students and our professionals to succeed, they have to feel well, both physically and mentally. When you're not doing well physically and mentally, you will not do well in school or work. So that is very important. And for us, it was especially alarming that 41.4% of respondents reported to have fair or poor mental health. And again, we don't offer mental services. That's not our thing. But at least starting a conversation, right, on in which ways we can support our members that are dealing with physical or mental health issues. Another example on how important this is to all of you, our most registered and attended SHPE reads was centered on mental health. So again, just a good way to start a conversation and see how we can better support all of you with this as well. Okay, let's go to constructs, and this is my favorite part. So I always get very excited when I get to this part. So in our survey, we also added some questions to measure different constructs that are important when we talk about our mission and when we talk about membership, and things like STEM identity, cultural perspective, underrepresented status, and perspective on microaffirmations, classes and work or feelings. So to analyze the responses to this set of questions, we first had to measure the internal consistency of these constructs by using a statistic that is called the Cronbach's alpha. And this coefficient is a measure of how closely related are items in a set. So basically, it's just measuring how good was your question at measuring what you wanted to measure, just to say it in another way. And what we wanted to get here was a Cronbach coefficient that was greater than 0.7. As you can see here, for most of them, we did get amazing results and amazing Cronbach alphas, except for two, which are cultural perspective and recent events. So moving forward, I do not show results for those two. But what we're doing right now is working with an external evaluator that is examining these two questions so that when we do the needs assessment again, we make sure that we get better results and results that we can actually use in the future. So here in the graph, I present the average responses for each one of the constructs with high Cronbach alphas. And the ones in orange, right, they went from 1 to 5. And then from feelings to, it went from 1 to 10. The highest rating was given to perspective about classes and work, which means that you all are enjoying and having a lot of enthusiasm in your classes and work, which is fabulous. But the lowest rated was underrepresented status. And this one was measuring, right, how we all feel and believe on how others perceive our abilities, right, and worth, as well as experience unfair evaluations due to our underrepresented status. And then the last one, feelings about things like your identity, being accepted, feeling recognized for your efforts and your talents, feeling included and understood, that got an average of 7.2. This is something, right, that we would also like to be looking at in a yearly basis, because this is something that we would expect it would increase again as we continue to offer programs to our members that help you develop your STEM identity and all these other categories. I can give you an example at Research and Innovation. We have our virtual STEM labs, and we are now hiring facilitators. We also have a new tutoring program where we will have students tutoring other students. So giving all of you, right, work that relates to your field so that you can build, right, your confidence in your skills and abilities, and also how others around you perceive you. We did this analysis by different group partitions. I could, talk about this like for 4 hours. That's how much material and information we have here. So we divided them by, again, by group, undergraduates versus professionals versus graduate students and professionals in grad school, by gender, comparing males versus females, college generation, so first generation versus non-first generation, those that have community college experience versus those that don't, graduate programs, so comparing masters versus PhD students, US Hispanic generation. So we did all of those different combinations, and the three that I show here were the only statistically significant findings. So across all groups and across all of the different constructs, professionals always scored higher than undergraduates, males always scored higher than females, and non-first generation to college score higher than first generation to college. And this goes in alignment with everything that we see in literature and others reporting as well. So even though it was expected, it's always good to see, right, that our data is in alignment with what we see in other places as well. And this is the last piece of data that I have for you today, the Net Promoter Score. So only 1.8% of respondents say that they would not recommend SHPE membership to others. So we should be very proud of this. 81.2% would recommend SHPE to others, and 15.4% said maybe. Another improvement that we're going to be doing to the needs assessment questions for next iteration is that we will actually ask for a scale this time. So from 0 to 10, how likely are you to recommend SHPE to others? So that then we can have more information about our promoters versus passes versus detractors, and can, make more analysis based on that as well. So this has been presented to the board, to the APC, our Academic Partnership Council, and IPC, or Industry Partnership Council. This was also presented to regional leaders, and also now, you all, our members, our Familia. So this will also be published in a report. We're working right now in collaboration with the Latino Donor Collaborative. If you're not familiar with them, I would encourage you to Google them and go to their page and see the reports. This is what they're known for, and the reports that they have done in the past. So we are very excited about this collaboration and getting our results published with the Latino Donor Collaborative. And this is going to be going out soon. So spring 2023, this report. Then we are at the same time getting ready to do this all over again. And an updated survey will come out next month. So please, if you get that email and you open it, go ahead and answer the survey. And then these future results, right, from this next iteration will also be published with the Latino Donor Collaborative in fall 2023. And we're in conversations of presenting those results at Latitude, which we are very excited about as well. That's all I have. I will now open it to questions, and Kimberly will help me moderating.
So we have June's had her hand up for a long time. Thank you for being patient, June. I knew that she was planning to take questions at the end. Would you like to unmute yourself and ask your question? Or did she answer it through the course?
Can you hear me?
We can.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I just pulled into my garage. Great presentation. I can't wait till I can actually look and see. This was long overdue. And, everybody ought to be able to take a look at these results and help us, design better programs for the members. So that's all I have.
Great. Thank you. Miguel, it looks like you unmuted. Was there something you were going to ask?
Yeah, I was going to say, first of all, this is amazingly good. This is the first time in the history that we do I don't want to say scientific research, but a scientific research. I mean, we've done a lot of surveys in the past, but they've been kind of quick and dirty surveys with simple stats. So I commend you guys for doing this. This is amazingly good. This is a good job. The only question I had is because I think this may we kind of bias the results, is when you guys said 65% of the respondents were born in the U.S., does that include Puerto Rico? Because if you don't have Puerto Rico included in that, then your numbers are artificially low, because Puerto Rico is U.S., regardless of what the professional chat says. And if they are included, then that's great. And I just wanted to know, is it included or is that separate? So,
Miguel, what we use was the definition that the Pew Research Center uses to calculate generation Hispanic. And the way they define it is first generation Hispanics are those that are born outside the US or on the island of Puerto Rico. So that's the definition that we use, because it's the one that was used by the Pew Research Center for their research. We are taking into consideration all of the feedback, and we are evaluating the way that we ask this question moving on.
Yeah, I would add that that's not the definition that the U.S. government uses. and I can provide you all the data you want. The Pew Research Center is a private organization, does not set how the country looks at their people. They may have a different point of view. So I urge you guys to not break us apart so much. You know, one of our weaknesses in the Hispanic community, and this is just not Puerto Rico, but in general, one of the weaknesses in the Hispanic community is that we continuously fracture ourselves as much as we can into big, ever reducing smaller groups, and that reduces our political power. So just consider that the government considers 100% of Puerto Ricans, whether born here or born on the island or born on a plane, as U.S. citizens, because we are. And none of us have Puerto Rican passports. So anyhow, it's just a small point. I think the research is fantastic. The findings are very good. I love what you guys have done. I love the updating, and you should continue this. It's a great job. Just that tiny thing that we need to work, and I can work that with you guys separate. Thank you. Thank you.
To bring another point, Miguel, and I have another question for you, back to you. Another reason, right, why that distinction, right, was important to us is that the experience of somebody that was born and raised in Puerto Rico and then comes to the United States is going to be very different than the experience of somebody that was born in one of the states and then moved to another state to go to college, right? And we want to make sure that we're also capturing that somehow. I don't know if you would agree with that or not, but I know that my experience coming to Puerto Rico to a school in the U.S.
I think we can ask the questions in the future to where we can address both of your perspectives, right, and end up.
But let me answer that question. I agree with you. It is a big difference. But so it is from somebody who grows up in Peoria, Illinois, and goes to college in New York City. The experience is day and night, completely different. Yet both are in the U.S. So what you say is true, but I don't think that's right. But again, I don't want to hold this meeting because of that. We can work that separate.
Thank you.
I just wanted to highlight that we need to work that and come to a conclusion. Great job, by the way. Great job. I love what you.
Thank you, Miguel. I appreciate you being here.
Ramon, you want to unmute and ask your question?
Yeah, I had two items. The first one, I heard that one of the categories that folks didn't want to renew their SHPE membership was like personal reasons. To me, like when I respond personal reasons on a survey, it's because I don't want to be asked about why I don't want to join, or I don't know. That just felt like the easy way out for people to avoid giving much feedback. So, but then I heard that, so that was a group that we weren't going to focus on as far as targeting them to try renewing membership. So that was just one point, and I don't know if I guess there's no easy way to address that. Just want to get your guys' thoughts on that.
So I think that at some point we could do some sort of outreach to where we get to a larger sample of those that have not renewed, but because our sample size of those that didn't renew was pretty small in terms of what we had in terms of a data set. But maybe if we did it another way. I guess the other thing that I'd say though is they did have the option to not respond because all questions were optional. So it's interesting to think, it might be interesting to go back and look if there was any comments that had a comment field on it, and to see if those particular responses had comments with them that might tell us something else. But those are the only things you can think of related to that.
Because personal reasons. I mean, they could also had something that they didn't like about the organization and affected them. And then the other item, one of the numbers that surprised me was the high percentage of respondents that responded with poor mental health. Was it around 40% or higher?
Yeah, it was high. There's just
So,
below 40, I think.
which I think
Just
is, I
below
wonder,
50, sorry.
and do you know if that correlates with like the undergrads, the grads, professionals? Kind of makes me wonder if there's correlation there with STEM, with the high level of coursework and intensity of the engineering programs, and then same as a professional level where you're always going up against deadlines and tight
Actually,
budgets and schedules.
I actually have that data, but of course, this is not cooperating with me.
Yeah, not getting to it fast enough, huh? The way I
Yeah.
remember it was that the groups weren't statistically significant from each other, but I may be.
So, well, it was, yeah, it was higher for undergraduate students. It was 51.3% for undergraduates, 42.5 for graduate. And then professionals went down to 39.7, professionals in grad school, 32.2%, which I think would have been opposite, because going to work and school at the same time is really hard. But yeah, for undergraduate students, it was the highest group.
Yeah,
It-
so yeah, and that just gets me thinking. Maybe I know we're not therapists, but maybe more activities, things focused around stress relief and just helping people unwind.
Mhm. Yeah.
No,
The
but yeah,
exciting thing is that one of the items that we put in for potential funding for Honeywell that they decided to move forward with is to actually give us a chance to think about what we might do in this space to be able to make a difference for our members. So while we don't have anything designed to offer yet, we are going to be in a position to think about it and make some decisions about how we could best serve. Any other
awesome.
Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you so much for being with us this evening. We look forward to being able to actually have a published document to share with you as well. We're getting close, and I thank you for being here. Have a great night.
Have a great night, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.